Yep. Good evening, everyone. So last session, we learned about class members. In class members, property, accessor, method, another one, constructor. Yesterday, we discussed about constructor and few more things we learned, static and non-static, and we discussed about access modifiers in the class, access modifiers and all. Constructors all are same actually. One point yesterday we discussed about constructor, but what is new things you need to know about constructor in TypeScript is about constructor. Some new points you should know is actually yesterday we learned that constructor, it is used for instantiation. That means it is used for creating objects. Actually, it is a design pattern. So it is a design pattern which comes under which pattern? Creational patterns. It comes under creational patterns. And it is, yeah. Another point you need to know, as I already showed you, constructor defines actions to perform while creating an object for class. Yesterday already I given that example. While creating an object for class, if you want any functionality to happen, that you can give to constructor. So constructor defines actions to perform while creating an object. Now here, what is new you need to know is, when compared to other OOP languages, in JavaScript and TypeScript constructor is anonymous. TypeScript constructor is anonymous. Anonymous means without name. Generally, in other OOP languages, class name is used for constructor. Constructor name will be the same name as class name, but in TypeScript, constructor will not have a name. It is anonymous, without name. Constructor implicitly uses class name. Explicitly, we don't give any name. So constructor must be anonymous. You see, it is anonymous. Constructor and no name here. We cannot give a name called database. That is not suitable. Actually, in other OOP languages, the constructor name is given as class name. But here, just we have to use the constructor keyword, no name. If there is a function without name, then we call it as anonymous. So TypeScript constructor is anonymous. Another important is it cannot be private. TypeScript constructor cannot be private or protected. Another point is it cannot overload. Actually, in other OOP languages, constructor can overload. Here, constructor cannot overload. That means only one constructor can be defined. So with one functionality, constructor cannot overload. Generally, constructor overloading is supported in other OOP languages. So here it is not supported. Constructor cannot overload. Another important point here is, so constructor can be parameterized or parameterless. Constructor can be parameterized or parameterless. You can have parameters or parameterless, and it can have optional parameters. Optional parameters, already I told you, they are defined by using question mark. So it can be parameterized or it can be parameterless. So for example, here we are defining constructor like this. Let's keep it clean. Class, database, and in this we have a constructor, and this is having DB name as string type, and we will put console.log, and we will put a message connected to whatever DB name they given. That is constructor. And we have an ordinary method. How the methods are defined? Public, and method name is connect. Say insert is the method name. If it is not returning anything, it should be defined with the type as void, and here we need to put a message. So console.log record inserted. That's how we need to define. So technically, when you create an object for the class let some Oracle is equal to new database. Now it is showing error because constructor is expecting some parameter, and it is mandatory to pass the parameter. So while allocating memory for the class, into the memory we pass the parameter. And what is the parameter? Suppose Oracle, and we will put Oracle dot insert. Now constructor is a special type of method which executes automatically. You don't need to call it. Constructor executes automatically. So when you run this now, let's run this here. And here we are compiling this tsc index.ts, and we have node index.js, and it will display that. Constructor is executed automatically. So the method you are calling manually. The constructor is the method that executes automatically for every object. It executes automatically for every object. So here constructor is expecting a parameter, and we can pass that parameter. A constructor can have multiple parameters also, more than one parameter. Same JavaScript like parameters, you can have more than one parameter. DB name, so that means database name. We can define some username. It is a string type. Then automatically, if constructor is expecting two parameters, you need to pass those two parameters, like some Scott like this. And we are so as connected to Oracle as user, and we will give user, it will come from username. So we are configuring a constructor, and we are defining the constructor with parameters. So I will compile it again, tsc, and run this, and it is executed. That's how it works. So technically, all the points about constructor is same as JavaScript, only few changes about parameter and data types. So I will not go more than this, because this is all JavaScript constructor only, no change. So I'm just giving what is new in TypeScript, just type is new, right? JavaScript constructors, JavaScript properties, JavaScript methods, and JavaScript accessors are same exactly in TypeScript. Only the point you have to mention the data types, right? So this is some basic things you need to know about constructor. Next, about understanding the class members. Another important is inheritance. Inheritance is same. Already we know inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but extensibility. Extensibility. Already I explained that in contracts, the same here in classes. Now we discussed already. Inheritance is nothing but extensibility. Extensibility is defined by using inheritance. Extensibility is defined by using inheritance. And why to extend, why not to modify the class? Already we discussed that. What is the purpose? Why to extend? Why not to edit the existing class? Why to extend a class without editing a class? Concept already we discussed. For achieving what? Backward compatibility and for developing multi versions. That means one more technical word I told you, side by side execution. What is side by side execution means? Side by side execution means multiple versions of same application can run on a machine. So extensibility is defined by using inheritance. Now important, class can implement contract and extend another class. Class can implement a contract and can extend another class. So I will show you both concept, how it works. So it can implement a contract and it can extend another class. That means, for example, we are creating a contract here. Let's create a contract. Contract means interface. And interface name is some product contract. In this we have name, string type, and price, number type, and stock boolean type. Now this contract is to be implemented. Here we have instead of stock I will give quantity as number type, and we have a total, that is a method which is also number type. Print is a method which is what type? Void. I told you that contract contains rules for both properties as well as methods. Now I am creating a class called product component. Now this component cannot be by its own. It should follow certain rules, and rules comes from this contract. How a class can use contract? How a class can use contract? If a class have to use contract, it should be designed as per contract. Then it should use implements. Class can implement contract. That means which contract it should implement? Product contract it should implement. Now immediately error came, because if it is implementing contract, according to contract everything you have to define. According to the contract everything you have to define. That means according to contract it should have a name, price, quantity, total, and everything. So we have to define. So public, what it is? Name. What is the data type? String. And we will put some value. Some value we are storing into it. Second, we need another one. What is it? Price. It is a number, and into that we are displaying some value. We have quantity. So another one is quantity. It is also a number, some 2. What is total? Total is a method. Total is a method which should return what? Number. Then we have to write the functionality. How it can return? Return this dot quantity into this dot price. And one more method we need. What is it? Print. And it is a void type. As per the contract, everything must be implemented until or unless it doesn't have any optional. So how a class uses contract? If you are designing a class, that class should be as per rules. and the rules for a class is given by contract, and how a class uses contract by using the keyword what implements. That is the point I given here. Class can implement contract. Class can implement contract and extend another class. I will give extend also. And important, a class can implement multiple contracts. For example, there is another contract. So interface. Another contract is suppose category contract. In this category contract, we have category name. Category name is a string. And the class product component, it can implement product contract as well as category contract, just comma. A class supports multiple inheritance of contracts. A class supports multiple inheritance of contracts. It can inherit multiple contracts. It can implement multiple contracts. So here, according to that, you need to add one more. What is it? Public category name. Category name is some electronics. Like this, we need to define. Now this print have to print all the details. How do we print the details? Console.log. We are printing all the details like this. So name is coming from, so this dot name, and /n next line. Price is coming from this dot price. And we have quantity is coming from this dot quantity. And we have total. Total is coming from this dot total. And we have category name. Category is coming from this dot category name. Now how to create let obj is equal to new. Which component? Product component. We are creating an object for the class, and through that object we are accessing print method, which will print all the details. Now you run this and tsc index and node index.js. So it is presenting all the details. This is a simple concept of how to write a contract, how to implement the contracts. A class can implement contracts. Okay. Now let's see how class can extend another class. This is example for implementation. Implementation of contracts. Implementation of contracts, generally it is done like this. This is example for that. This is example for implementation of contracts. How a class can extend another class. That means we will see extending classes. Why do we need to extend the classes? Already we learned, right? For handling multi-versions. Let's do one simple example for that. In real time, where these extensibilities are used. See, I am creating an example here for implementing extensibility. So what is that example is class. I am creating, suppose HDFC Bank and version 1. In this version 1, we have public, some personal. Personal is a string type, and here we have personal banking. Personal banking services. So this is what we are giving. Okay. We have another NRI, which is a string type, and here we will put some NRI banking services. So this is for Indian customers, and this is for NRI customers. Okay. Now this is one version. Without disturbing this version, we need to build another version. Why we should not disturb this version? Because people who are satisfied with this version functionality, they will still continue using it. They will not update to new version until or unless they need the new features. But in this application, we want to build some new features and you want to provide, but everyone don't want to use them. That means Microsoft released Windows 11, but still you are using Windows 10 or Windows 8. You will not use Windows 11 until or unless you need the 11 features. Right? If you don't need 11 features, you will still continue with Windows 7, Windows 8 like that. That means we will not force anybody to use our latest version until or unless it is mandatory. Suppose some security problems are there, you fixed them and developed a new version, then you will force. And you will ask them that you have to use this new version only. Otherwise, security issues will come. So generally, we can provide multiple versions. How to build a new version without disturbing existing version. So we are creating a class, HDFC Bank version 2. In this version, we will put public, suppose loans, and we will say string. And here I will say personal, so personal, car, bike, house, so etc. So loans. So this is loans. I am giving some loans. All these are defined. So in the new version, we are adding loans facility. So, but this loans facility should be along with the previous. Previously, we have personal banking, NRI banking. In addition to that, some new features. So, these two, personal and NRI, we want to be used in second version also. Then we don't need to rewrite them. What we have to do, simply version 2 extends. It extends HDFC version 1. It extends version 1. That means now without disturbing the first version, we are developing a new version, and in that all the old version features are available. And along with the old version features, some new features are there. What is that? Loads. And you know that this is single inheritance. If you are inheriting this second version again and you are extending the second version again, that means we have class HDFC version 3. This extends HDFC version 2. This is called multi-level. Multi-level means an extended class is again extended. Now this time I am giving public some, so GOVT, and it is a string type, and here we will say government schemes. So Indian government schemes like this. Like this, we developed this option. Now, very important is, so how many classes are there here? 3 classes are there. And the class, which is the first version from where other classes are came, actually this class is considered as superclass. It is superclass, and that means the existing class is superclass and the newly created class is derived. But this is also a superclass for which version? Version 3. For version 3, this is superclass. So we have a base class, another one super. In order to access the members of superclass in derived class and use them, we have to use the keyword super. I will show you that. We will see that. Initially, this is ready. That means we created this. Generally, what we do is, so generally, extensibility is ready. We need to build interface in such a way that they can use any of these. So see what I am doing now. So index.ts is having so many versions. What I will do here is I will create an object let. This is, so version 1 is equal to, it uses HDFC Bank version 1. It is an object for version 1. And we will create NET version 2. It is new HDFC Bank. So that is version 2. This is second one. We are creating 3 objects for 3 different versions. So new HDFC Bank version 3. 3 objects for 3 versions. Generally what we do is we ask the developers, means we ask the clients that which version you want to install. They will choose which version they want to install. We can give the versions to them and they submit. That version related details should come. That means now you have 3 objects. We have version 1, version 2 and version 3. So we will write a simple switch case, you know. Into the switch we will pass the version number. That means we will ask first. So let enter version number, enter version. We will ask which version you want, enter version. And I will do one thing here. So here I will use a prompt and say enter version number. Enter version number. Later if you are doing with HTML, what you can do is you can put a drop down and ask them select which version you want. Right? We are saying prompt enter version number, and here if they enter the version number, we will use a switch. Into the switch we will pass the enter version, right? So enter version, we will pass that enter version into the switch. You know how to write the case. If the case is version 1, VR1, then what should happen? It should print the version 1 related details. It should print version 2 related details, version 3 related details. So see now how to print. We have all these options, but we need to print. So every class can have a print method. We will use a print method. It is void type. It will print those details. So document.write. I am printing those details. What are the details? One is this dot personal, and in the next line we will print this dot NRI. That is what we are printing. So that is print. Now what should happen is here we have to create another public print method and same void. This should print document.write. It should print what? It should print this dot loans, but it should print this dot loans along with the previous personal and NRI. That means it have to print along with this. I will put a BR, right? That means along with personal and NRI, these loans also be to printed because it is extending now. Then how you can access this line again inside this print method? You don't need to write it again. How to call a superclass method in derived class? By using the keyword super. Super dot which method? Print. Then it will print the superclass details. That means without rewriting this line again, we are just calling that here. The members of superclass are accessible to derived class just by using the keyword super. Now here similarly another version, third version. What is this third version have to do? It have another print method, and this print method will call super dot print. That means it will call both for second version and first. And in addition to that, it will have document.write. What it should be here, we will print loans. After loans, we will put BR. Okay, what it should print? It should print. So here, this dot what? GOVT. Like this we are defining. Okay. Now what should happen? If it is version 1, then it should use version 1 dot print method. Understood? Then we will put a break. If case is what? Version 2, then it should print version 2 dot print method. If then break. And you know switch cases, right? Case, if it is version 3, then what we have to do? So version 3 dot print. We have to access the print and break. And if there is default, that means there is nothing entered 1, 2 or 3, then we will put a message document.write. We will say please enter version. So VAR1, VAR2 or VAR3 only. This is the message we are going to display. Then we will put a break. Now this is what we have defined for this program. Now what we have to do is just we need to compile this and run this and see, because you are using a lot of HTML inside this. So we need to transcompile it. So TSC, what is it? Index.ts, index.ts, and you cannot run here because it is using document functions. You have to link to your HTML page. We already linked that JS file to HTML page, and we will run this and see. It will ask the version number. So which version we want? I entered version 2, then okay, then version 2 details will come. That means these are the contents of version 2, right? Suppose user wants to install, that means I will do more better in the interface actually. If user selects this one, so let's put a heading here. So document.write heading to style, I will say here as, so this is HDFC Bank version 1, right? Version 1 features, right? These are version 1 features. These are version 1 related features. These are HDFC Bank version 1 features. Okay, copy this. If user selects the second one, what it should be? Version 2 features. Okay, if user selects the third one, it should be version 3 features. That means now you see here, I will refresh version, I will say version 1 and say okay, it will get these two. Okay, that is also not printed. We need to recompile na? TSC index.ts. Now we will refresh that and see here, and version I am giving version 1, then it will get that version 1 have only 2 features. Now I will refresh here, I will enter version 2. Version 2 contains these features. So version 2 has these features. We have to clean up these, right? We will delete those and use them. And I will keep another option. What is it? Version 3. Then it will get the version 3 features. These are all features available. These headings we need to delete actually. So version 3 or 2, then only version 3 and 2. This version not to be printed. So in everywhere we have to manually write. That will be better. Huh? What we will do is, because it is calling the previous one, this we will print. This we will print in switch case. That will be better. Okay. This is version 1 features. And this will be version 2 features. Version 2 related features. It will print that. And next one will be version 3. So because if you write in that particular class, then again previous one will be called every time. So we will compile this, and here yeah, now I entered version 3, only version 3 features will come. Version 3 features, all these are available. Suppose I want to install only version 2, only version 2 features will come. I want to install only version 1, then I give version 1, only version 1 feature will come. And I am trying something else, then it says please enter only version 1, enter only version 1 and 2 and 3, default, enter, okay, enter version 1, 2, 3. So if you enter anything wrong, then it will display please enter the versions 1, 2 or 3. That means now why we have to extend a class? This is second version related. Why we have to extend a class without modifying existing class? because you should not modify the existing class because already it is being used by some environments and they don't want to change. They want to continue with that. They don't want new features. So that is the reason these days every software, several versions will be there. And we provide facility to develop users that which version you want, you choose. Earlier it was not like that. So few years back, only latest version they have to install and use. But now their devices are supporting multiple versions. They can install multiple versions. They can use only which is suitable for them. Why? Because some people will have less memory. Some people will have high memory. Less memory people also should use the application. Less connection speed people also should use application. Then for them, we will reduce facilities. We will say that because your connection is slow, because you are using limited memory, only these features will work. We will not stop our application. We will tell them that with this capacity, these features are available. If you extend the capacity, then more features we can give you. But we will reach everybody. That means a low connection speed, a less memory also we will reach. Our application should be in that way. We cannot develop an application with very advanced features and we cannot tell that you should use high capacity devices only for our application. Then nobody will use. Nobody will use. Because people will use your application if it only works in all situations. That is the reason we have to develop multiple versions of same software and give to the users these days. And this is the purpose of inheritance. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is without disturbing an existing class, extending a class. Right? That is the concept of inheritance. So extending classes is nothing but, so extending classes, it is the process of creating a new class, and extending the features of existing class. So existing class is known as superclass, and new class is known as derived class. Is called derived class. And extends is the keyword used for inheritance. Extends is the keyword used for inheritance. So syntactically, how we have class, we have a superclass, and we have another class. This is derived class. Derived class extends superclass. Derived extends the superclass. Here, another point is you can access the members of superclass in derived class by using which keyword? Super. By using super keyword. We can access the members of superclass in derived class by using the super keyword. Here some important rules are there. Those rules I will explain. What are the basic rules of inheritance? And this is very important. Actually, inheritance is known as inheritance relation. Actually, relation is known as has a relation. So not has a relation, it is a relation. Is a relation. So inheritance relation is called is a relation. In software technology, is a relation means inheritance. Has a relation means we call it as aggregation. Aggregation means without creating any relationship between classes, how you can access members of one class in another? Without extending a class, how you can access the members of one class in another? By creating an object. By creating an object of base class in derived class, you can access the members of base class in derived class. Without creating relationship, if you are accessing members of one class in another, that is called aggregation. We call that mechanism as aggregation, and that is called has a relation. Has a relation. So if anybody asked you like what is aggregation? Aggregation is nothing but it is the process of accessing the members of one class in another class in another without creating any relation between classes. Without creating any relation between classes. Actually, it is referred as has a relation. Has a relation. It is referred as has a relation. That means it uses object to object communication. Object to object communication. That means how you can access the members of one class in another class if there is no relation between classes. We have to create an object of the class, and through that object we can access. That mechanism is called as aggregation. We call it as has a relation. Is a relation means we are maintaining relation between classes. That means derived class extends base class. Here, I hope you have learned one very important rule of inheritance. So, can you tell the inheritance rule? Anybody? What is inheritance rule? What is the inheritance rule? There is a standard inheritance rule. Because if you are unable to handle this rule, then there will be problem. Means if you are unable to understand that rule, then it will be problem. What is the inheritance rule? Inheritance rule. Acquiring any inheritance rule you know? Inheritance have a certain rule. According to inheritance rule, actually, it is rule about constructor. Now, can you tell? It is the rule about constructor. Inheritance rule is about constructor. What is the inheritance rule? It is related to constructor. Superclass, derived class? What is that point? Why it is so? As per the inheritance rule, actually, so superclass constructor must be called first. Superclass constructor must be called first. So followed by derived class constructor. This is very important rule. So if class is having a constructor, it is mandatory to call superclass constructor first, then followed by derived. And in Java, .NET like technologies, OOP languages, C++ and everywhere, it internally happens. You create an object for derived class, then automatically first superclass constructor will be called, then followed by derived class. That generally happens in OOP languages, not in TypeScript. So we have problem here. In general OOP languages, superclass constructor is called first, then followed by derived. It is a mandatory rule. It is a mandatory rule that first which constructor should execute? Super, then followed by derived. Derived constructor cannot execute without super constructor. This is inheritance rule. And what is advantage is in your Java, .NET and other C++ like technologies, internally super constructor is called. Internally super constructor is called when you create an object for derived class. When you create an object for derived class, super constructor internally called. That will not happen in JavaScript and TypeScript. So you have to manually call. You have to manually call. That means generally in many OOP languages, so super constructor is called before derived constructor, derived class constructor implicitly. In many OOP languages, super constructor is called before derived class constructor internally, implicitly. So JavaScript and TypeScript cannot call super constructor, constructor. Hence you have to explicitly call. You have to explicitly call super constructor in derived class constructor. This is a very important inheritance rule. This is a very important inheritance rule. And if you don't follow these rules, then inheritance fails. Inheritance will not work. I will show you. Let's see. So what we are doing here, we are creating. So this program I given, I will give this program first related to inheritance. This example I will give just for your practice. This is the example. Inheritance related example is this one. Okay. This is which one? Index.ts. You have to convert to JS and link to HTML page. You can run the output. Okay. Now let's see this inheritance rule now. How this inheritance rules work. So here I am creating a class. So some say super class. It is having a constructor and I will give a simple message console.log. So this is super class constructor. Okay. Then I am creating another class. Another class is what? Derived class. And the derived class extends which class? Super class. Now here we have a simple print method. So public, so print method. So and here it is printing console.log print method, or here we will create a constructor just to understand. So constructor, and it is what? Console.log, and it is which constructor? Derived class constructor. And see, there is error immediately. Now the question is, can't we have a constructor in derived class? You can have a constructor in derived class, but that constructor cannot execute first. First, it is mandatory to execute superclass constructor. So how to call the superclass constructor inside derived class constructor? By using the keyword super. That's Fine. That is the inheritance rule. If you don't follow this rule, inheritance will not work. So when you are dealing with inheritance, this is the basic rule. And internally this happens in other languages. So that is the reason you don't need to call the base class constructor in derived class until or unless you need to pass some data into it. Right? So, but here in JavaScript and TypeScript, it's mandatory to pass the superclass constructor in derived class, compulsory. Without that, inheritance will not work, which you may not be doing manually in your other OOP languages, but here it is mandatory. If you don't define this inside constructor, it is an error. And see the error, it shows the error. Constructors of derived class must contain a supercall, must contain a supercall. So it is not an option, it is mandatory. That is inheritance rule. So because of this rule only, actually this is the inheritance rule. Let me copy this. That means which constructor will execute first? Super constructor will execute first, then followed by derived. That is the basic rule of inheritance. Now, the inheritance rule you understood. Now, that is the reason if anybody asks like why multiple inheritance is not supported for classes. For classes, multiple inheritance not supported. But it is supported for interfaces. You saw interfaces supports multiple. Why multiple inheritance is not supported for classes? What is the correct reason why multiple inheritance is not supported for classes? What do you say? Why multiple inheritance is not supported for classes in OOP languages? I told you, don't try to explain answers. Right? You said confusion. Then interviewer will ask what confusion? If many people will say ambiguous, ambiguency, ambiguence. Ambiguence means what? Ambiguity means what? There may be same name members. That is ambiguity. If not there, it will work. If same name members are not there, will multiple inheritance work? If I am not having same name members writing, then will it work? It will not work. That means that is not the main reason. That is not the main reason. So what is the technical reason is actually in software architecture we call as it is not supported because of constructor deadlock. That is technical answer. It is not supported because of constructor deadlocks. What is deadlock? Constructor deadlock means what? Just a simple thing actually. Why it is not supported? Because constructor deadlock. Constructor deadlock means you see here, actually we have a super 1, we have super 2, we have super 3. How many super classes? 3. Every super class will have a constructor. Okay, every super class is having a constructor. Every class is having a constructor. Actually, in the memory means in the process actually. This is generally called process. In the process, for a class, a process is allocated. In the class, a memory is allocated. Process and memory is allocated for any class. That means for a class, suppose this class is derived. So in this, for this class, this process is allocated. That means this memory is allocated for that class. Now what happens is this derived class is extends. What it is extending? It is extending, suppose super 1, super 2 and super 3. It is extending super 1, super 2 and super 3, right? If it is extending super 1, super 2 and super 3, then what will happen according to architecture? According to architecture, what will happen here is, observe. So this is also having a constructor, am I right? This constructor have to call the superclass constructor. Na? Superclass constructor means we use the keyword what? Super. That means now what happens is, which superclass constructor have to load into process? Process will allow only one. Process will allow only one. Then which will load? Actually, super constructor 1 will be waiting for super 2 to go into process. And the super 2 is waiting for super 1. And super 2 is waiting for super 3. This is waiting for super 2. All are waiting for each other. No one is going into process. This mechanism is called deadlock. Deadlock. This is called deadlock. If a constructor doesn't goes into process, then it is incomplete. Inheritance is incomplete. That means inheritance cannot work because no constructor is going. There is no order. Super 1 is first, super 2 is second, super 3 is third. It's not order. All are superclasses. One superclass constructor should load into process and all the constructors are waiting for each other. This situation is called deadlock. Actually, in the background of memory, they are trying to load, but they are not loading. That means classes multiple inheritance is trying to work, but it is unable to work. It is trying, but it is unable to work because constructors deadlock mechanism. Now, this is the point here. You see, many people said ambiguity. Interfaces also may have same name rules. Na? Two interfaces will have same name rules. Then ambiguity problem will not come there. Ambiguity problem will come there also. Then why multiple inheritance supported there? That means same name rules can be there in different interfaces. Then ambiguity problem should come, it supports multiple interface. That means ambiguity is not a problem for multiple inheritance. Who is the problem? Constructor. Constructor. Why it is supported for interface? Because interface don't have constructors. Interface don't have a constructor, there is no deadlock. That is the reason even there are same name members also, it will work. It will work. If there are same name members, I hope you know, if there are same name members, only the latest one will work. That means same name members is not the reason for multiple inheritance. The reason is constructor. We call this as constructor deadlock. There is no constructor in interface, so multiple inheritance supported. Interface also can have same name members, right? Ambiguity is not a issue related to inheritance. That is not the reason. The reason is constructor deadlock. That means you are telling after inheritance what may happen. I am asking before inheritance why it is not working. You are saying after inheritance ambiguity problem may come. The problem of ambiguity is after inheritance happens. but it will never happen. Why it is not happening? Why it is not happening? Because of constructors. In any technology in the world, multiple inheritance is not supported for the classes because of constructor deadlocks. That is the architectural reason why multiple inheritance is not supported. Why it is supported for classes? It is in interfaces because they don't have a constructor. Interface don't have a constructor. That is the point you need to know. This is very basic rule. Why constructor deadlock? What is constructor deadlock is actually deadlock is nothing but deadlock is a situation for constructors in superclass, in constructors of superclass. So where all constructors are waiting for each other to start the process, but no one is starting the process. All constructors are waiting for each other to start the process and no one is starting the process. So if process doesn't start, then inheritance is incomplete. There must be one super constructor as per the rule. And if there is no super constructor, then inheritance is incomplete. So that is the main reason of why multiple inheritance. So that is the extension. Why multiple inheritance is supported for interface. Why it is supported for interface? Because it doesn't have no constructor in interface and no deadlock. Actually, deadlock is a concept of multi-threading. In multi-threading, you have so many situations. You will learn about a concept called mutex. You learn about deadlock. So these are all multi-threading related concepts, right? And process related concepts, which you will learn in multi-threading of any technology. But actually, this is the reason you need to understand, right? So why multiple inheritance is not supported for classes? That is the concept we have seen. Okay, this is working fine. Now everything is okay. This is the concept of inheritance. Inheritance and inheritance rules. That is the basic thing. Next important in object-oriented. Multiple constructors cannot be there in contract. No, that's what we discussed already. There cannot be multiple constructors. Constructor overloading not supported, I told you. Overloading means what? Overloading means another constructor with a different definition. Right? Constructor overloading is not supported. Private constructors cannot be there. So that is a basic rule. I given those rules here. Inheritance constructor. So you see, it cannot overload. Right? Already we discussed that rule. Overload means you cannot have another constructor. Generally, many programming languages will support. That means constructor can overload, but here it cannot overload, right? They cannot overload. And already you know, so here, why interface don't have constructors? I explained detailedly about interface, because interface is a contract. Contract means it can contain only rule, not the implementations. Contract is an constructor is an implementation. Constructor is an implementation. So implementing some functionality. Constructor is constructing an object, implementing a functionality. And contract cannot contain constructor because contract is only about rules. there cannot be any implementation, and constructor cannot be just declaration, it should have an implementation. Why constructor cannot be there in an interface? Why it cannot be there in an interface? Because constructor implements a functionality and contract cannot have any implementation. Contracts cannot have any implementation, so interface cannot have any implementation. So that is why constructor is not allowed. Constructor is not allowed. That means if anyone asks, somebody asked from online, that's a good question. Why interface will not have any constructor? Why it will not have constructor? Because constructor needs implementation and interface cannot have implementation. That means constructor is not declaration, constructor is implementation, and interface cannot have anything related to implementation. That is the reason constructor is not there in interface, right? That is. So this is basic option how the inheritance works. So how the inheritance works and how the inheritance rules work. Is it clear to everyone? Right? Yeah. So actually these are all JavaScript only. That means we are not discussing any new about TypeScript, because JavaScript constructors, same rules we are learning in TypeScript also. I am giving a detailed overview because if people don't have idea of this in JavaScript, they will face problem in Angular. That's the reason they need to know this, because in Angular we have to work with all TypeScript classes. So you should be perfect in this. Actually, these all topics are JavaScript topics on. That means here in TypeScript only extra data types. Data type means you create a method, data type, property, data type, constructors, their rules, all are same across JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay. Next important is another important concept here is next important you need to understand. So about polymorphism. Polymorphism. How this polymorphism works. Before polymorphism, is it clear with the inheritance basic point, right? Right. It is clear with the basic point of this. Now polymorphism, how it works, I will give a simple overview first. Then we will discuss detailedly what is polymorphism. I will just give an overview. Why? That means what is the concept of polymorphism? Because many times you, while learning, have a restricted idea about polymorphism. That means many times people say polymorphism is function overloading, right? That means you people generally learn polymorphism only in function way. That is the reason for you it may be function overloading, but polymorphism is more than that. Polymorphism is not about only function overloading. Polymorphism is more than that, which we will see. What is exact correct concept polymorphism and where it works, how it is used in real-time development. We will see that. For example, see, actually to make you understand about this, I will give a simple theoretical idea first. Actually, we have some devices, like I will give you here. We have devices like we have a pager. Pager is a device. We have digital organizer. We have a device like camera, and we have a device like phone. These are different devices. Actually, few years back, we used to have a lot of devices. So pager is a device which was there before mobiles came. It is used for SMS. It is used for sending SMS. Pager is used for sending SMS. You can send SMS to any person by using pager. Before mobiles came, means remote calling came, pagers came. First pagers came. So actually, you see, let's see here. So this is pager, how it looks like. Pager looks like this. This is pager. This is how a pager looks like. This is used for sending SMS, only SMS. That means before the concept of mobile came, we used to use these pagers. We send SMS, only SMS. So we can send SMS. Actually, you see old telephones, they have alphabets also, right? You will be wondered like why we need alphabets on telephone, right? Actually, telephone should have only numbers, but old telephones, you see alphabets also will be there, but you never used them because that is only for sending pages, messages. We can send pager messages using that. That is pager actually, pager. Pager is for sending SMS. We have digital organizers. Digital organizers are used for storing contacts, for storing contacts, address books. So address books like calendar, like calculator. All these are present in digital organizer. Alarms, appointments, everything we can store. We generally we call digital diaries actually. We have digital organizer. Digital organizer actually, these are digital organizers. These also people used very much in the early days. Digital organizers means generally people maintain a book in their pocket, writing addresses and all, writing phone numbers and everything. These digital organizers, you can feed anything into them, you can view them. So we can put alarms, we can put appointments, everything. These are digital organizers. And you know, of course, camera. Camera is what? Camera is for photos and for videos. So that is videos, that is camera. And phone is for call, right? For calling, we use this phone. And now actually a device came. This device name is mobile. Now this mobile device can work as a pager. It can work as a digital organizer. It can work as a camera, and it can work as a phone. That means now one device, it can do everything. That means now this phone is exhibiting, poly means many, and morphos means forms. That means a device can work for different situations. That means it can have different behaviors. That means designing a component in such a way that it can work for different situations, that is exhibiting polymorphism. That means mobile exhibits polymorphism. Suppose there is no SIM card, can we use mobile? Yes, we can use. We can use Wi-Fi calling. There is no SIM card, you can use Wi-Fi calling. You can use for taking photos, videos. You can use for alarms, appointments. You can use even for sending SMS through WhatsApp without a SIM card. Sometimes a SIM card is not allowed. WhatsApp requires SIM card. Na? Facebook messages and other messages, you can send SMS. That means the point here is this device can work with different behaviors. That means it is exhibiting polymorphism. Now, how this is related to our software technology? A developer should design a component in such a way that it should work for every situation. A component should work for every situation. That means, for example, I have to do 4 different works, and for that I need 4 different components. Instead of that, design only one component which can do all the 4 works. This is what polymorphism is. That means a developer is responsible for designing components in such a way that a component can work for different situations. I will tell you here a simple point. See, I am creating a class employee here, and this employee class is having so public first name, and it is a string type, and it is undefined, string and undefined. We have public last name, and it is a string, and it is undefined, and we have a public, so print name, a print is a void, and it is printing the details. That means here we will put, so I will just put document dot write. So this is first name. We have to print the first name and last name. So I will just use here this dot first name and this dot last name. We are printing the first name and last name and break. Like this we are defining. Now I am creating a class called developer. Developer extends employee. Developer is an employee. Developer extends employee. Then he can use these details. That means first name. First name is what? First name is a string type, and here we will put some Raj. So, and we have some last name. Last name, so it is a string, some Kiran, something. And we have, so a print method. We have a print method. So print method, it will print. But very important is extending means you are adding some new feature. What is the new feature? I'm adding a new feature called role, is a string type, and I say developer role, so is building. So building, debugging, so testing, all these developer. Now what we need to do is we have to call superclass print method, which will print the first name and last name. And along with that, we will print another one. What is it? It will print this dot role. That means it will print the role also. That means now it is developer role, building, debugging, testing, whatever is there. It will print the first name and last name, and it will print the role. Now, similarly, I developed another class. This is admin. He is also employee. Remember, not developer. It is not multi-level. It is also employee. And it have first name. So first name, some Kiran, some last name, some Kumar, like this. And this role is which role? This is admin role. Admin role, I am just giving here authorization and authentication. Okay, like this I define, and we are printing that. Okay, one more class I am creating. This is manager. Manager, so is also employee. Manager is different, some Tom, and I define some Hanks, like this. And here I said manager role. Suppose I given some like approvals. And we are printing the details. Now, how many employees are there? How many employees are there? How many employees are there? 4. 3 employees are there. That employee is not employee. That is a blueprint for employees. Am I right? This employee is a blueprint for employees now. It is a blueprint for employees. So how many employees are there? 3 employees are there. Now my question is, how we can access these 3 employees? I want to access all these 3 employees by using one object. I want to access all these 3 employees using one object. For which class I need to create object? If you create object for manager, only manager will come. You create object for employee, only employee will come. It is not multi-level inheritance, na? And people who say, I know polymorphism, they must have answer for this. Then we can agree that you know polymorphism. Question understood? One object should work for all 3 employees. Generally, to handle 3 employees, we need 3 objects. Because 3 employees have different memory na. If you can create one object which can work for all 3 employees, that means you know polymorphism. And how you can do that? How you can do that? See, it's very simple. I am creating employees object, which is an array type. In that first location, I will pass the memory of developer. In the second location, I will pass the memory of admin. In the third location, I will pass the memory of manager. That means now how many objects are there? One object, and it is handling 3 memories. At 0, it is working for developer. At 1, it is working for admin. At 2, it is working for manager. Object is only one, working for 3 different. This is polymorphism. That means we don't need to create 3 objects. We don't need to create 3 objects. For example, to handle this, what I will do now, I will add here. So say, one more thing we will add, designation also. I will add designation. Designation is a string type and it is an undefined type. And I will print the designation also. So that means this dot designation. And this designation we will put in every one here public. So designation is this is what? Developer. Developer is the designation. Copy. The designation for this is what? Admin is the designation. Admin is the designation. And here we have another designation. This designation is what? Manager. And see what I am doing here. I am just writing a simple iterator for where employee of employees. We are reading all the employees' memories. If I will ask designation to enter, let's say LET designation. Designation is a string type and it is a null type and it is a prompt. And I'll say enter designation. Enter designation. And here we will write if designation is matching with, that means every employee have designation. If it is matching with the designation we entered, then only that employee related print method should work. I return the logic in this way. That means we created only one object for handling all 3 classes. 3 different classes. Developer class different, employee admin class different, manager class different. Let's compile this here. And you see here compiling this. And we will open this page, index.html page, where we linked it actually. And when I run this here, now it is showing enter designation. I entered manager, only manager detail will come. And I asked a designation, I said admin, only admin details will come. And I asked for developer, only developer details will come. So to handle 3 different classes, you need 3 different objects, but we now created only one class, one object handling 3 classes. This is polymorphism. That means now employee object have multiple behaviors, right? This is polymorphism. Polymorphism is not about overloading functions. It is about overloading memory. So that in different memory, it can handle different actions. That is what we are doing here. That is the polymorphism concept. So this is technically, that means one object is working for different situations. That is polymorphism means. So in real world development, where we use polymorphism, where we have several classes and to handle those classes, we need several objects. Then we will create only one object which can manage all those classes. That is polymorphism. That is polymorphism. So what is advantage? Now one class, one object can manage several things. For different situation, it can change different behaviors. That is the concept of polymorphism. This program I will upload, right? And tomorrow I will give you the definition for that, right? And tomorrow we will discuss some more. What is abstraction and how that works, right? Tomorrow we'll continue. Hope it is clear to everyone. Right, tomorrow we'll continue with that, huh? Right. Until TypeScript is finished, your classroom code is same. Okay, classroom code is not changed until TypeScript is finished. From Angular, we will change the classroom code. I will send you that, okay? Right.